Hello everyone, welcome to English Tutorial Edu. This is Sumita and today we are going to be learning about the poem A Legend of Northland by Phoebe Carey. So this legend, A Legend of Northland is a ballad. A ballad is a song narrating a story in short stanzas. Ballads are a part of folk culture or popular culture and are passed on orally from one generation to the next. So this poem is a legend, and this legend or old traditional story originates in the northern part of the northern hemisphere near the poles, where the days are short and the nights are so long that people have to get up in the darkness for work. Now let us read the poem. Away, away in Northland, where the hours of the days are few, and the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through, where they harness the swift reindeer to the sledges when it snows, and the children look like bear cubs in their funny furry clothes. The poet says, far away in Northland. Northland here means the countries around the North Pole, like Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and the northern section of Russia. So in these days during winter, the hours of the day are few. We know that they have 6 months of daylight and 6 months of darkness. And the nights are so long in winter that they cannot sleep them through. So the people cannot sleep throughout the night because the half of the time it is night. So they will have to get up in night and work. Where they harness the swift reindeer. Harness means tie. The swift means fast reindeer. So we can see that these reindeers are harnessed, okay, and they are very swift. They can move very fast. To the sledges when it snows. So this is the sledge. Sledge is a vehicle pulled by draught animals in snow. And the children look like bear cubs in their funny furry clothes. So we can see that this cute child here is looking like a bear cub, a baby bear, okay, because of the funny furry clothes. They tell them a curious story. I don't believe it's true, and yet you may learn a lesson if I tell the tale to you. Once, when the good Saint Peter lived in the world below and walked about it preaching, just as he did, you know. So here, the poet is telling that the people in Northland tell their children a strange story, okay, a curious story. And the poet says, I don't believe it is true. And yet, from this story, from this tale, we will learn a lesson. He says once when the good Saint Peter was an apostle of Jesus Christ or a disciple of Jesus Christ who went throughout the world to spread the message of Jesus Christ. So when he was alive, it means he lived in the world below, means below the heaven, and walked about it preaching. Preaching means spreading the religious teachings of Jesus Christ, just as he did, you know. He came to the door of a cottage in travelling round the earth, where a little woman was making cakes and baking them on the hearth. And being faint with fasting, for the day was almost done, he asked her from her store of cakes to give him a single one. So Saint Peter came to the door of a cottage in traveling round the earth. So he was going around the earth spreading the message of Jesus Christ, and he came to a door of a cottage where one woman was making cakes, and she was baking them on the hearth. Hearth is the fireplace. Okay, we can see that she is wearing a red cap or a scarf and being faint with fasting. So he was fasting, going without food because he was a religious person. But the day was almost done. So after fasting, it was time to eat something. So he asked the woman to give him a single cake from her collection or store of cakes. So she made a very little cake, but as it baking lay, she looked at it and thought it seemed too large to give away. Therefore she needed another, and still a smaller one. But it looked, when she turned it over, as large as the first had done. So she made a very little cake. She did not give the cakes which she had already made for herself for giving away. She made a very small cake. But as it was baking on the hearth, she looked at it and thought that it was too large to be given away to someone. Therefore, she kneaded another. So we can see that this person is kneading the flour, turning it into dough. She made a smaller cake this time, okay, than the previous one, but it looked when she turned it over as large as the first had done. So the first cake she had made a small one, but the second one was an even smaller one. But when she wanted to give it away, turned it over, she thought that it was as big as the big one. Then she took a tiny scrap of dough and rolled it flat and baked it thin as a wafer, but she couldn't part with that. For she said, "My cakes that seem too small when I eat of them myself are yet too large to give away." So she put them on the shelf. So she thought that no matter how small she makes the cake, they seem to be too big to be given away. So scrap means a small portion or a tiny bit of dough. Wafer is a very thin biscuit. You eat wafers, as you know, so it is very thin. Okay, but although the cake was as thin as wafer, she couldn't separate herself from that. Okay, she couldn't give it away. And good Saint Peter grew angry, for he was hungry and faint, and surely such a woman was enough to provoke a saint. And he said, "You are far too selfish to dwell in a human form, to have both food and shelter, and fire to keep you warm." So Saint Peter was very angry at her behavior, that she couldn't even part with the smallest of cakes that looked like a wafer. Okay, so he was very hungry and was feeling very weak, and such kind of woman was enough to incite anger or to make even a saint angry. Saints do not become angry easily, but this kind of behavior made even Saint Peter angry. So he said, "You are far too selfish, a person who only thinks about herself, okay, to dwell or live in a human form. So you don't deserve the human form. You don't deserve to be a human being. You don't deserve to have both food and shelter and fire to keep yourself warm in a house." Saint Peter became angry and said, "Now you shall build as the birds do, and shall get your scanty food by boring and boring and boring all day in the hard dry wood." Then up she went through the chimney, never speaking a word, and out of the top flew a woodpecker, for she was changed into a bird. So we can see that this is a chimney and the woman was changed into a woodpecker and she flew out of the chimney. Scanty means very little. And the chimney is the structure in this roof as outlet for smoke, for the smoke to go out. And a woodpecker is a bird which gets its food by pecking on the tree trunks. You can see the picture of a woodpecker here. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same. But all the rest of her clothes were burnt black as coal in the flame. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. She had a scarlet cap on her head, and that was left the same. So the woodpecker has a scarlet cap on her head, but the body of the woodpecker is black. So all the rest of her clothes were burned as black as coal in the flame. So when the woman became a bird and flew out of the chimney, the clothes were burned. So the woodpecker has a black body. And every country schoolboy has seen her in the wood. Country schoolboy means the schoolboys in the rural areas. So they have seen her in the wood, where she lives in the trees till this very day, boring and boring for food. So the moral of the story is we must be sharing our things with the people who need them. Okay, we should not be selfish. Here with the beak. We have seen woodpeckers, they are pecking the branches of the trees for their food. Let us see the rhyme scheme of the poem. The first line ends with Northland, that is A. Second is few, B. Third is winter, C. And the fourth is through, that rhymes with few. So the rhyme scheme is A, B, C, B. The fifth line also has A, reindeer, and then snows, B, cubs, C, and clothes, again B, because clothes rhyme with snows. So the rhyme scheme of the poem is A, B, C, B throughout the poem. Now let us see the poetic devices or literary devices or the figures of speech used in the poem. So the first two words, away, away. So here the poet has used repetition. Repetition means repeating the words for emphasis. A lot of alliteration in this poem because this is a ballad, and alliteration brings a kind of rhythm in the poem. So that they, them, through, they all begin with the t sound. So this is alliteration. Then sledges, snows, again alliteration is used. The children look like beer cups. Okay, so look like beer cups here. The children are compared to the beer cups, and we see that the word like has been used. So this is an example of simile. Okay. Then funny, furry, again we see alliteration has been used. They, tell, them, alliteration has been used. The t sound has been repeated. Yet, you, again y sound has been repeated. Tell, the tail, alliteration, again t sound has been repeated. Here again faint with fasting, alliteration has been used. First sound repeated. He asked her, again alliteration, her sound has been repeated. But baking, again alliteration, b sound is repeated. Still smaller one, again alliteration, s sound has been repeated. Then we see in stanza 9, rolled and rolled, which is repetition, and assonance has been used in the second and third line. Assonance is repetition of the same word in consecutive lines. So we see that both the lines start with and. So this is assonance. Okay. Baked is as thin as wafer. Okay. So the thinness of the cake has been compared with that of a wafer. So here's a simile has been used, comparing things using like or as. So as has been used for comparison. So this is an example of simile. Again, seem too small is alliteration, and of course this one, then, took, again alliteration has been used. Surely such, this is again alliteration, so sound has been repeated. In stanza 13 we see that shall, scanty, again alliteration has been used. Boring, 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 so repetition has been used. Through the chimney, alliteration has been used. We see here in stanza 15, alliteration has been used in she and scarlet, so sound has been repeated. So black as coal, simile has been used. The black feathers of the woodpecker has been compared to that of coal. Again here, the trees till this, alliteration, t sound has been repeated. In the last line, repetition has been used, boring and boring. So I do hope you liked this video. If you did, please press the like button and subscribe to my channel. And don't forget to write about your queries in the comment box. Thanks for watching.